Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Avon Town Council meeting this evening, the 27th of June. If you would all please rise for the national anthem.
Are you singing?
Maxwell is one of our young Cub Scouts, and he's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Maxwell. Roll call, please.
Robert Pope,
Present.
Bill Holland, Jason Puckett,
Present.
Don Loudon,
Present.
Greg Zuzen.
Present. Next item on the agenda, the Indianapolis Metropolitan Planning Organization is going to be presenting us a check, so I'll let Mr. Cannon handle it.
Yeah, I would like to invite up Anna Gremling from the Indianapolis MPO. I'll just kind of maybe give a little bit of background as Anna comes to the front here, but the Indianapolis MPO is the regional planning organization that actually finances road construction projects throughout the 9-county central Indiana area. And so whenever the town needs funding for projects, we actually apply and work through the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Anna is the executive director and is doing a fabulous job. And so I will turn it over to her and let her share some good news with you guys.
I assume the button needs to be green. Essentially, I'm here to congratulate the town of Avon. So last fall, we had a call for projects to award $60 million in funding. For that $60 million in funding, we received $235 million in project applications. The Dan Jones widening project rose to the top as a top regional priority, not only for Avon, but for the regional needs and infrastructure needs. So today I'm here to present a $5.4 million check for fiscal year 27. So Ryan, this money's not going into your bank account yet. But I wanted to congratulate you guys. You have been very successful in the last 5 years, much to the rest of the region's dismay, and getting your fair share, if not more, of the regional funding. And so it's always exciting to come out here and to present the check. Ryan,
I'm going to come take the check, but I want to give some kudos to Anna and her staff. I don't know if you guys can appreciate, I know this because I work for all of you, but if you can appreciate that Anna works for everybody who's in central Indiana in 9 counties, and it's a very challenging thing for them to do. And Anna has, under her leadership, she's done a fantastic job of keeping these projects, and the way we are able to get funding is they weight them on the merit of the projects. And so that's a kudos to Anna and the job that she does and her staff. She has a wonderful staff in making sure that they're being fair and they're evaluating and they're awarding funding to the best projects. So, and we're just lucky because we have a lot of projects that are good projects, or maybe they should have been done like 10 years ago. But either way, they're scoring well within that criteria that the MPO has created. So thank you to Anna and her staff as well for the wonderful job they do. And Avon has gotten lots of funding. A lot of the road projects in Avon would never have been done if it wasn't for the support of the MPO. So we're very grateful to Anna as well.
And that's what I want to say is, you know, I've always said if it wasn't for the MPO and food and beverage and TIF, Avon wouldn't be Avon. And we need your support, and we need to partner with you, and we appreciate. I'm sure we don't get any, you know, extra stars by our name. You know, we work hard to get our projects prioritized and get them in the queue and get the weighted average. And you can drive through our community, you can see where we've put the MPO money to great use. So I thank you, Anna, and your staff. And we're going to keep coming with our hand out. We're not going to stop.
As anticipated, congratulations again. It really has been a team effort, right? Not only once we award the money, right? You guys have to deliver on the project on time, on budget to make sure we don't lose the funding. And so it really has been a team effort, but putting forth quality applications that score well in the process has been key, and you guys have been successful. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
At this time, we would like to take a short recess for some pictures.
Okay, let's reconvene the Avon Town Council June 27th meeting. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions on the consent agenda?
I make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda as presented to include the check register for today, our June 13th work session meeting minutes, and our June 13th council meeting minutes as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Don Loudon,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Greg Zuzen.
4. Next item on the agenda is the first of 2 public comment opportunities. The public may comment on items on the agenda that are not a public hearing or on a specific matter within the council's jurisdiction. If you do come forward, please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. We will open public comment. With nobody coming forward, then we will close that portion of the agenda and move to council comment and liaison reports. Ms. Loudon.
Well, attended the chamber lunch this past Tuesday where Ryan was the guest speaker and he got to share with the chamber members and about the new East and Gray project and show some of the renderings and things like that. And people were excited to see it. Greg and I attended a annexation open house here on one night this week. Tuesday also? Okay. And then, so we had some people, one person came in, one household came in, and that was favorably received as well. And then lastly, attended the joint school and town council meeting where, again, we discussed the latest renderings of the East and Gray project. That's it.
Dawn, I'm sorry, I got a question for you. What was the annexation conversation? We've had a few areas. Which one was this one for?
This was the Carnoustie one.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Okay.
that whole
Gotcha.
section, yeah.
Thank you.
Robert.
Last week attended the WCCD board meeting, but nothing special to report from it. As well, last week, myself, Shelby, Justin, and George represented the town at the Leadership Hendricks County Golf Outing. It was a really hot day, but it was a lot of fun. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. That's all I've got.
Jason.
Also attended the joint school board work session to see the latest renderings of East and Gray. Very excited to see how that's progressing. Other than that, I don't really have anything new.
In addition to what Dawn said, I attended with her. We had the Plan Commission meeting this past Monday. We approved a favorable recommendation to the council for the parks to get Burnett property changed to institutional zoning. Lennar showed had in their Bellwood edition, they wanted to put in a pool and playground area. And then we sent an unfavorable recommendation to the council for the Wawa that is located, or wants to locate it to 100 North and Dan Jones. Today, Robert, Ryan, myself, John Taylor met with, you may know him as the Project Winston Group, now known as Sephora. They said we could give their name out. They're coming to Avon, and it's a great company. It's a great organization. Just the 2 hours that we were here, 2.5 hours, it's going to be a great addition to our community. It's something that we can be very proud about. There's part of their workforce. I think it was about 15 to 30% of it is going to be people with disabilities, special needs. And, we've got Damar, and we've got Sycamore Services, we've got Family Promise that people, need jobs. And, this is going to be a great addition to our community. So I'm excited. They're excited. It's about relationships. It's about retention. And, it couldn't be a better thing for us. So time will tell, and they're a great company. Let's move on then and go to new business. Agreement for Youth Assistance Program. Mr. Cannon?
Yeah, I'll do a quick introduction, but then I'm going to ask Stacy and Judge Tansel and Dr. Sullivan may even pop up if you guys have questions for this. But as you guys know, for really the last year and a half or so, we've been talking about the Youth Assistance Program. They attended a couple of meetings last year, a couple of our work sessions where we talked about kind of the benefit of the Youth Assistance Program and how that would fit in. A lot has changed since then, and I think I've kind of kept you guys up to date on some of that stuff. Last year, the school had expressed an interest in not participating in this program, and the council had kind of said, well, if the school's not participating, we're not interested in participating. And so the school has had some additional meetings with Hendricks County, the Youth Assistance Program, and I think they do now believe there's a need and that there's a path forward to fund this. They've also gotten a grant to help them. So what they're asking us to contribute would also then help contribute towards a match on a program that they were able to get a grant for. And so again, I maybe won't speak to the value of the program. I'll maybe turn that over to Stacy and Judge Tansel to talk to you guys a little bit about. And then they're here as well to help answer any questions you guys may have.
Thanks for having us. I appreciate it. Thanks for having us. I appreciate it. Yes, like Ryan said, we have been in conversations for about a year and a half with the Hendricks County Youth Assistance Program. And as some of you know, they piloted in Plainfield, and we've been out there since 2021. The first year we served about 55 students. Then we served 157 the next year, and last year we served 222 students. After meeting with the Avon school and trying to figure out how we would want to run this in Avon, the interest really is, and Michael can correct me if I'm wrong, but the interest is really in the Avon Academy. So once the students are there, this is a voluntary early intervention program. So we really want to make sure that we're available for them, but it's on a voluntary basis. So once the school refers these students to the youth assistance program, then our goal is to do an intake and an assessment with them to see what the need is, see what their goals are, see where they want to go, and then assist them in getting there. So we will offer the tutoring, the mentorship program, and a full family program, just like the Plainfield Youth Assistance Program does. And then we will also encourage them to get involved in their community. So if they need a job, we will assist with that. If they need childcare, we will help with that. Anything, if they're going to college, if they want some training after the academy, anything that they're trying to do, we're not trying to recreate the wheel. We want to get them back into the community and help them use the resources that are already in Avon, already in Hendricks County, that they might not either be able to get plugged into, might not have the finances, might not have the know about, or, sometimes they just need somebody to come alongside them, sit at the table with them, and walk them through the process. And so after conversations with Avon schools, that's kind of the direction that we want to take with Avon, is really serving those students that are in the academy and need assistance right then, and then follow up with them maybe after they finish. The youth assistance program serves students ages 3 through 17. So, some of those families, I know some of those students actually have babies over there. So we will be able to assist them and their children as well. So that's kind of the goal in Avon. It's a very different approach than what Plainfield took. And that's the most amazing thing about the youth assistance program, is when we go into each community, we can develop the program according to what that community wants. And this is what we've heard from Avon, is that they really want us to work with the Avon Academy and the students that are there. Go ahead.
I'm going to piggyback off of what you said, Greg. I mean, you're bringing in a new community partner with Sephora. This is a new community partner that dovetails perfectly in with that when you're talking about that and family promise and supporting the community and supporting the family and supporting the needs of everyone here. It is interesting with Plainfield. They started with the little kids. Mm-hmm. The goal was to start in elementary school, work the program up. In talking with the Avon Community School Corporation, they've said, we have a need at the top. We're going to the Avon Academy, and that's where we're going to start and focus our efforts, which is interesting because in my role, both as the Chins Court judge, that certainly, the Avon approach, will help me more on the delinquency side, because those kids in the Avon Academy are kids I'm probably seeing in juvenile court for one reason or another. If it's a voluntary early intervention program, that's the chance to put, a shoulder around the child and say, come with me this way before you start going down the path where you need to come see me in court. We've now had a signed contract with the Avon Community School Corporation. Their school board approved it. I've signed the contract. I've got funding from the Hendricks County Council to fund benefits for early intervention advocates. And so these are where we're at here, is that the piece that we're needing from the town is additional funding so that we can fund the salary for one early intervention advocate. We actually have two.
We have two.
But we don't have enough money to support two. We have enough to support one. And so to have this program truly run, Stacy is the executive director over both the Plainfield Youth Assistance Program and the soon-to-be Avon Youth Assistance Program. Mm-hmm. And so Stacy's role is covered through that. I can keep going. I want to stop and take a breather and see what questions you have right now. This is the program is structured on the back end probably a little bit differently than what it was when we had our discussion with you a year and a half ago. And that's okay. We've made the program honestly more flexible and better to add people on. I can get into the details if you really want to know. But instead of having, if you guys remember talking about an interlocal agreement, we were going to have the county and the town and the school sign an agreement. Instead, what we're doing is we're having a contract between the school and the court. And then we have a separate contract between the court and the town. And that's the Avon Youth Assistance Program. We're not doing the three-headed interlocal agreement monster. Stacy and her team are technically employees of mine. They're on my payroll. They're on my staff. And so under statute, the Youth Assistance Program is a program of the juvenile court. And so, and because the county commissioners and county council has to pay the salary of my court, that's where we got the additional appropriation from the county council to go ahead and bring on these two new early intervention advocates to get up and running for the Avon Youth Assistance Program. So that's where we are. It's still a three-headed monster. It's just a different form of getting there. So.
Any questions?
I think I've got two. And I think I know the answers to them, but I want to hear them. What the county is putting money into this program.
Correct.
If we don't agree to this, if I believe the county council said those funds, that grant, if you will, goes away. What's the dollar amount of that grant that's being provided for this?
The opioid grant was $170,000.
Specifically for the Avon Youth Assistance
I wrote
Program.
it for
The
Avon.
county
Youth.
is paying say that again?
$170,000 is the opioid grant that I wrote for specifically Avon Youth Assistance staff to employ one staff member for 2 full years, salary and benefits.
And then the other one, is it fair to call this purely preventative? This program is a prevention to joining the justice system or intended to keep people out of the justice system?
The only thing I take issue with this is the attorney brain in me coming out and saying purely preventative, right?
All right.
Because it's more than that. Yes, there's certainly a preventative aspect to it. There's no question about that. But sometimes, and I can tell you this in my experience on the bench and prior to taking the bench, sometimes families are just lost and they need someone to guide them through. And frankly, it may be somebody who's already in the system, but they decide we need an additional level of help. And that's what we're here to provide. That's Dr. Sullivan could talk about the kids that are over at the Avon Academy. They have needs that go well beyond the needs of I hate to say your traditional student because no one's traditional, but the majority of your students, they have needs that go well beyond that. And so we're connecting resources. Judge O had a vision that we needed mentoring. This isn't, I mean, to be clear, this isn't a Big Brothers Big Sisters, but the mentoring piece is there. And I agree that there is that need for mentoring. I can't tell you the number of clients I represented who were making stupid decisions. Sorry if I said that in a public meeting, but that they just needed someone to say, you might want to stop and think about this before you do that. It wasn't anything illegal. It wasn't anything wrong. I had a guy with no money who was convinced that he could buy a car, and the car dealer convinced him he could buy a car, and then he turned it around and gave it up the next day. It wrecked his credit because he had no one there telling him this is a terrible idea. So that's why I hate to say it's purely preventative.
Not purely preventional, but I feel like it's the majority of it's the intention. At least that was my understanding. I thought I was leading you a softball question, but that was my understanding. Was this the goal here really is to keep children out of the justice system?
Yes.
The other thing I want to add to when you were talking about grants, we also have a grant through ARPA that I wrote for specifically Avon, and it's $30,000 of seed money. So once we do get the okay, once we are able to move, there is money there for the students to start programming. So we don't have to wait on the board to come together, fundraise. We can start working right away. So we do have $30,000 there as well for seed money.
And just as from a high level structure for you to noodle on, we're asking for funding for staff.
Correct.
There's 2 funding components. I know that the staff comes from 3 sources, but there's staff funding, and then there's the programmatic work. There's the programming side. And so the Plainfield Youth Assistance Program has a very robust fundraising board of current members sitting behind us. But their job is, sorry, I couldn't help it. You were here. So. But their job is to go out and to raise the funds. I don't know if you've seen, if you follow the Hendricks Live website, Performances for a Purpose. That's a fundraiser that's designed to help benefit the Plainfield Youth Assistance Program so that they can provide money for the funding side to provide the programmatic work that then the staff basically helps oversee. we need to create that board here.
Correct.
And it hasn't been created yet, but we're asking for the funding for staff members.
Yes.
And so that they can then guide the board into the proper funding sources.
You said that the $170,000 opioid grant was for the staff for 2 years. That's what it is.
One staff, correct, yes. And then we would like for the second staff, because we didn't think because of the size of Avon, we really thought we needed 2 staff to start out. And so that's why we're asking the town and the school together to fund that additional staff.
It's going to help us hit the ground running a lot better.
Right. We learned in
Thank you.
Plainfield.
That's what I was trying to go with Plainfield.
Yeah.
Started out small and that was fine, but we know what we're doing now. And it's time to hit the ground running.
If I may, sorry to interject, but on this note, I have a couple of friends that are actually on the board of the Plainfield Youth Assistance Program. They speak very highly of the program. And if the 4 of you remember, actually probably the 3 of you remember, our retired councilman, Steve Eisenbart, this was a pet project of his. He has begged us to set aside money. It is budgeted for. It is a very valuable program. His heart was really into it. And with the focus being on the Avon Academy, I just think that's one more way that the town of Avon is going to support the school.
Right.
Jason, I know you haven't seen this presentation before. I put you on the spot. Do you have any questions or observations?
How much, I'm looking for it here. How much is our commitment to this?
37 a year.
37,000?
Per year for 2 years.
Okay.
And to be clear, our grant money is for 2 years. The contract that I just signed with Avon is 2 years.
How much was the school's contribution?
Oh, help me stay.
16? Okay, okay.
16 per year.
16 per year, yes, sorry.
Yeah, great question.
I would say because we have 2 new people,
Mhm.
and this one in particular, because it's absent, asked to not, he wanted the opportunity to hear about the program and to look it over.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to ask that we table a vote tonight until he's had an opportunity.
There was, we're past questions. I feel like I've clearly been in support of this. I supported Steve Eisenbarth last year when we were trying to get this budgeted. And my line of questions were intentional. So I may not be great at math, but I feel like I just counted $200,000 is what you
Yes.
guys have secured for members of our community.
Absolutely.
That I believe, if I'm correct, if we don't walk through this agreement, there's $200,000 a year that's missing from that what could have been brought to our community.
Yes.
So I'll be greedy for a moment. I want $200,000 for my community. So there's one. On the other one, Sean, I'm going to put you on the spot for just a moment, but I don't think in a bad way. It's been a few years, but I remember you educating us on policing and preventing people from entering the justice system was, to use the phrase, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Proactive policing was far more effective, far more impactful than reactive policing. And I can't help but see the direct relationship between what you taught us then and what we're seeing out of this program. Sorry, that wasn't, no question there. It's just, correct me if I'm wrong. Am I remembering that?
That's an easy answer, yes.
Incorrectly. So for me, I feel like this is just another one of those minor tools, and it's a very inexpensive tool for us to, it's a pound of cure. It's an ounce of prevention to save a pound of cure kind of thing.
That's what Judge Love always used to say.
I'm sorry?
That's
So
what Judge
Judge
Love
Love-
always used to
Oh,
say.
well, hey, great. Cool.
Yeah.
One of the, I understand there's a motion to basically table the discussion to next month. One thing that we are hopeful for is to be up and running for the school year, for the start of Avon school year. So if we are pushed to next month, I respect the council's decision, but it's going to be real close to the start of the school year. So that is at least a consideration point. That's why we're here this month.
Well, my initial response is, this is a school issue, not a town issue. And then I look at it and go, well, but wait a minute. These kids live in my community, so they live in my town. So it is a town issue.
And those kids are going to be adults. And so,
And we've created sidewalks for them to walk on now, so we're going to see them walking up and down our streets. But then I've also been over to the academy, and I've seen
Yes.
those kids in person. And to listen to them and to understand how they felt out of place in the big school. But over there, they really felt warm and welcomed, and they were contributing members, and we all make mistakes. And some of them have babies, but
Right.
you know what?
right?
They're trying to step up
Mhm.
and raise a family through a mistake they made that will last forever. I mean, I have 4 girls, so believe me, I remind them totally. So, I've been on this side of the fence and on this side of the fence. We've budgeted for this. We put it through in our levy. If we got the extra levy, that we were going to use the monies for that. So I'm prepared to provide that funding for the 2-year window. And this is something we will look at on an annual basis as well.
Absolutely.
The thing that I wanted to make certain, you've said it, it's going to be the Avon Youth Assistance.
It's going to be the
Program,
Avon Youth
not some other
Assistance.
community.
No,
And when I looked in here and I saw Noblesville, Carmel, Fishers, I'm sure they have
They do.
their name on
Yes.
it. So that's the other side of that I like is it's our community, it's our name, it's our program, it's our students, it's our
Absolutely.
families that live in our community. So.
and that's why it took us a minute, going back and forth with Avon to make sure that we created it the way Avon wanted it. And they didn't want it to start with elementary. They've actually said, we don't feel like we need it right now in elementary. And so, it was important to us that we spent some time to really look at what they needed, what they wanted. And I think after mid-year with the academy for the first year, that's when they were like, okay, this is where we could use it. And so, yes, it's Avon Youth Academy Youth Assistance Program, and all money raised from the board, once the board is created, will only be used on Avon students, and it will only be used in Avon community and Hendricks County. So,
And one thing I want to talk about with the board, I'm gonna squirrel into a technical detail for a second. With Plainfield, we previously had the Plainfield Youth Assistance Program and the Plainfield Youth Assistance Program nonprofit board. We still have that nonprofit board. The Plainfield program actually saw the value in expanding the program. They renamed the board to the Hendricks County Youth Assistance Program Board. And then the idea is that, and I'm going to steal from the Community Foundation model because as board chair for 2 years, I know it pretty well. The idea is that under the Hendricks County Youth Assistance Program umbrella, of course, Stacy's the director, but then we're going to have the Plainfield Youth Assistance Program with the funds set aside for the Plainfield Youth Assistance Program. We have the Avon Youth Assistance Program with the funds set aside for the Avon Youth Assistance Program under the Hendricks County Youth Assistance Program umbrella. Frankly, that means it's just Stacy's only managing one nonprofit instead of, hopefully 6 nonprofits if we get all the schools on board. So just so that you
And I agree with that. I mean, we do a lot of things that should be underneath the Hendricks County
Yes.
umbrella.
yes.
Because we always talk about Hendricks County.
Mm-hmm.
And so even mental health and things of that nature, even poor relief through the townships, to me, it's Hendricks County.
It is.
Right.
Yes.
It's not this partition of it or this piece of it, this tentacle.
So I just wanted to get that piece of naming out there just so that it was clear that you were aware as well.
That was one of the questions I also had, because the Avon Community Schools is Washington Township. So why is it that just the schools, the town, and not the township are involved? Because they do offer poor relief, and, that's one of their functions, is to help with resources for people that need some resources. So why is it just
I
the
can't
two
speak to
entities?
Avon, but I can speak to Plainfield. They could not offer financial assistance for staffing, so that's why they're not in the umbrella, because they couldn't give any funding for staffing. But they do support the program, and they do support families and students in Plainfield that need assistance. Did that answer your question?
How do they support them?
Financially, if they need help with rental assistance.
When they go to them individually, you mean? Not through your program, but
Through our
when they go?
program.
Okay.
Yeah, through our program. You know, unfortunately, a lot of our
You're saying a
families.
part of that, you assist them to make sure they walk through that process
Correct.
properly so that they
Correct.
get
Yes.
funded well by
Yes.
the,
Yes.
yep, okay.
So we either, you know, some we can send to them or some we go with them, sit beside them, walk through the process with them, fill out all the paperwork. Yes.
And then lastly, even Greg has said that, you know, it appears to be a school on the surface, a school type thing. So why is the split 16,000 for the school and 37 for the town?
I think it's a lot deeper than it's just a school issue.
It is, but why isn't it 50-50?
Frankly, because this is the amount of funding that we are able to get. Historically with Plainfield, the town of Plainfield's contributed more than what the Plainfield School Corp has. The schools are limited with the amount of money that they can raise and the purposes that they can do. I mean, for a while, one of our first meetings with Avon, I don't remember all the technical details, but it's basically, we don't have a funding source for this. We are being squeezed on where we can fund our own students and our own books. And so we frankly don't have a funding source for this. And so, correct me if I'm wrong on that technical detail, please, somebody.
No, that's
But-
why the opioid grant, then I was
Yeah.
like, let's try that avenue.
Mhm.
So,
And your question about, one of the big issues with the money that's out there is funding staff. Because a lot of the times, even from the nonprofit sector, you can give money toward programmatic work, but you can't give money toward a staff member. And you see a lot of restrictions on grants and money that comes out that way. And so that's just it's the fact that Stacy found grants that can fund staff is awesome, because you typically just don't find that.
Any other questions? I mean, I look at it, you're doing things that our town does. We go out and get grant money. We
Right.
just had the MPO give us grant money.
yeah.
And so, and everybody's going to give it in different denominations. And sometimes I have to look beyond, is it fair? Why should I give more than this person or that? And I look at the big picture, and the big picture is when you add it all together, this is what we have. And so with respect to Dawn's asking for a table, I'll take that as a motion. Is there anybody else who wants to second that motion?
I think this is a good project. I think you'd have my support if we took it to a vote, but I think that what she's asking is fair, so I'll second that.
Any comments? My only question to you, Mr. Taylor, is if it ends up in a tie vote, the treasurer then is the tiebreaker?
She may vote to break the tie. She's not obligated to.
Right. All right. We have a motion and a second. Roll call. And that motion is to table it to next agenda.
Let me catch up here real quick. Okay, Don Loudon,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Robert Pope,
Against.
and Greg Zuzen.
Against.
I vote against tabling it.
I make a motion that we approve and adopt the agreement for the Avon Youth Assistance Program as presented.
I'll second that.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Don Loudon,
I abstain.
Greg Zuzen,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is the purchase agreement for RBI agreement. Shelby.
Good evening, Shelby Pride, Director of Parks and Recreation. As most of you know, we have a few newbies, but 1 year ago in August, we partnered with the Avon Junior Athletic Association. In that time, we have served 3,600 youth athletes, and we have 800 volunteers that volunteer their time with those athletes in various capacities, from being a commissioner to a league, to being a league coordinator, coaches, assistant coaches, and other volunteers that just love giving their time. Unfortunately, within that, for baseball and softball, after 12 years old, kids age out of our program due to the fact that we don't have large enough fields. We have 10 baseball, softball diamonds at the facility currently. Last fall, we were approached as the town by the RBI, the owners of RBI, the factory, and the fields, asking if we would be interested in purchasing the fields and potentially taking over the lease for their indoor facility. Over the last few months, my sports staff, town manager Ryan, myself, and our attorneys have worked with them and come up with a purchase agreement to purchase that facility. So you guys have in front of you a clean, fresh purchase agreement with all exhibits. What I sent you guys and what was on the town site, there was just a few minor clarification, just verbiage of some of the things that were in there. So this one is a fresh, clean copy. The agreement basically states that we would purchase the facility, the outdoor facility of the 3 baseball diamonds located at 104 South County Road 625 East. That is 8.458 acres for $608,500. And you guys know the drill for this. They ordered an appraisal, we ordered an appraisal. That's the median of those 2 appraisals for the purchase price for that. In addition, I am asking to take over the lease of their indoor facility. This is 12,000 square feet of an indoor hitting and training facility located at 8109 Kingston Street, also here in Avon. The lease is for just about 1 more year. It expires in August of 2025. So with that, I will take any questions that you have. I know we've discussed this in the past a little bit, but tonight I'm asking for approval of this purchase agreement.
In looking at the revised purchase agreement, page 7, we've got contingencies. You're okay with those contingencies, Dan?
Yes, we drafted the agreement and then RBI's attorneys made slight clarification. So yes, those are really my contingencies.
And I noticed quickly as I looked through it, they added just some contact names, their attorney and.
Correct. Yeah.
It's probably irrelevant, but my only other question was, how do they come up with the values on, the assets that they have? I mean, is it just throwing a dart in the dark? Or did someone come and appraise them?
Nobody has appraised the indoor facility, the assets in the indoor facility. What they did was took the purchase price of those assets, depreciated them a little bit, and they come with the facility. So we would essentially be getting all of those assets for this one price.
Yeah, the assets are really free to us. That book value that you see there is what I'd call that book value will help us with our insurance carrier establishing some value. But
Okay.
really Shelby worked out a deal where we aren't paying for that.
Any other questions for Shelby? If not, is somebody prepared to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the purchase agreement for 104 South County Road 625 East as presented.
Second. I will second that.
We have a motion and a second.
Don Loudon,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
For,
Jason Puckett,
4.
Robert Pope.
Oh, yeah. 4. Inside joke, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
congratulations. Keep it down back there, Justin. Okay, next item on the agenda is professional service agreement with 1816 LLC.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about this one. I know, again, we've talked about this quite a bit over the last few months. We just talked about the youth assistance program. One of the things we also talked about budgeting for in 2024 was a lobbyist to be a little more proactive in addressing some of our legislation. This is something the town council talked about at their strategic meeting. That was something that they wanted to do to try to be a little more proactive and to get someone out there to to help us get legislation out there that would benefit the town. And so, again, we talked to a couple different companies, but we really did land on 1816 as an option that we thought would be best to assist us in our goals. Just as a brief reminder, we did provide 1816 a couple of strategies or things that we were interested in help with. Those things were annexation statute, government efficiency, tax and revenue policy, which can include assessment, TIF, food and beverage, growth quotient, all those fun things we have to deal with in the budget process. So those were the strategies we told them on things that we want to work on. They have provided an agreement to us. It's a 12-month agreement. The cost is $8,000 a month. We only budgeted $30,000 for this year. The agreement would become effective July 1st if you guys approve it. So we're a little short in terms of what we budgeted for what the cost is. However, as you guys know, we got a huge additional distribution that we weren't expecting. We had originally budgeted this in edit, and we had some reduced costs in edit as a result. We also have some reduced costs in the general fund due to some staff that have left. So I am confident that we can afford the additional cost that we would have this year. I do want to make sure that you guys recognize as we get into the budget discussion for 2025, this is 12 months, so a portion of this contract would continue into that year. So then what I will probably do is budget the full cost for this into next year. So I'm happy to answer any questions. It is our recommendation that you guys approve this agreement with 1816.
Any questions for Mr. Cannon?
I feel like I'm asking Bill, although he's not here. This was an important, so maybe I'm asking Ryan and or any council member who may have shared this with him. I want to make sure Bill is okay with this firm. This is an important project for him. I wanted to make sure that he's okay with this particular group. Has anyone heard? I'm kind of looking at you, Don. I know you've been working with Bill.
I think he is. I think.
Has he given you any kind of feedback on?
He seemed in favor of it when we had it during the work session, so.
Of the overall, I'm asking specifically of 1816.
Yes, he was.
He was?
Right,
Okay.
1816, yeah.
Okay, that's my only concern. I wanted to get his feedback on that one.
Going to move forward with this. There, you'll see in paragraph 18, there's the option to pay the service provider to do the lobbyist registration that's required by the state for $300. And I would recommend that you have them do that for you. Those rules change and the lobbyist knows those rules, and I think it's well worth that. And then your staff won't have to worry about it.
I think when we looked at this, Dawn and I did with Ryan, we looked at item number 5, which was expenses, and number 18, which is the cost to register with the state. So, and we got a fair explanation. There aren't going to be any other than this registration fee that we have to pay. They indicated that they would be using their own, I guess, funds if they were going to take out a legislature or whoever they're going to talk to in terms of whatever they're trying to help solicit for the town of Avon. As we grow and we continue to grow, we need people like this. We're trying to get a meeting right now with State Rep Thompson, and he's on this. He's gung ho. He wants to make a macro change on the way taxes are calculated. And to me, you can't be all things to all people. I mean, everybody is affected differently. Farmers, towns, municipalities, townships, rural areas, suburban areas, downtown. I mean, we can't all be the same. And so I think that the question was, how do we gauge their success? I mean, how do we know that we're getting for $96,000, what are we getting for it? And just a couple of things, the pocket consolidations that we have where we surround a neighborhood that's in the town or is a county, we're going to get into town. They're going to help kind of get through that. And those are little battles, low hanging fruit that we don't have to do it. It's a whole lot easier if they do it. Then I said at the end of it too, I said, okay, then I want something when this comes pork belly time and you want to add something to a bill at the end of the session, we need to know what we want you to add and we're going to add it. And if it gets passed, hooray for us. If it doesn't, we'll just have to keep working on it. So I support this wholeheartedly. Jason, Dawn, comments?
No,
I want people fighting for us that know how to fight
Yeah.
for us and help us
Yeah.
change the state legislature. I know somebody's trying to get there to do that, but
Well,
we'll talk about that next year.
I want to know what alley to walk down and what alley not to walk down. So I'll let these guys do this for us. If there's no more questions, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt and approve the contract with 1816 LLC as presented to include the election to allow 1816 to perform the preparer services on our behalf.
I'll
For
second.
them to pay the $300 registration on our behalf as well.
No, we paid them.
We'll pay them to
But
do
they
it.
file it, yeah.
That's the preparer services
Yeah.
that are, yep.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Roll call, please.
Greg Zuzen,
For,
Jason Puckett,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Don Loudon.
next item on the agenda is to authorize annexation of town property.
Yeah, this seems a little odd. But it's a great lead in actually from talking about the legislation because Dan and I had this discussion. There's nothing in state statute that says the town is exempt from annexing our own properties. So unfortunately for us to annex something that even we own, we still have to go through the same process as annexation as every other project. So the particular parcels that are attached that we've provided you guys, there's actually, I believe there's 4 parcels if I remember correctly, would be part of an annexation that you guys will vote on here in a minute, which would be the Carnoustie annexation. And so we're asking for authorization to basically approve those properties to be annexed and to sign voluntary petitions to be annexed on behalf of the town. Again, I know it's a little odd. This is something Dan and I kind of joked about, that this would be great for 1816 to work on, to get legislation put in there that we don't actually have to go through a process like this. These properties are in the Carnoustie proposed annexation area, but the town probably has 10 to 15 other properties that are also not annexed. And we haven't done it just because it's an effort on town's time and it's kind of silly. So again, great example of how maybe 1816 can help us kind of navigate that and get legislation put in there that would exempt us from this. In the meantime, we have to ask you guys to approve those petitions, and so that we can move forward with the annexation.
So do we need a motion then to authorize annexation of the town property? Would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion that we authorize the annexation of town property as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Don Loudon,
4.
Greg Zuzen,
For,
Robert Pope.
4.
next item on the agenda is to accept annexation petitions. The first one is the Carnoustie annexation.
Yeah, again, I think you guys are aware of this. The town staff, as well as Dawn and Greg, have participated in working together with Carnoustie, which is a subdivision on County Road 525 East. It's just north of Oxford Park. So again, just to remind you guys, we had annexed Oxford Park previously. And as a result of that, Carnoustie heard kind of what we did with Oxford Park. And so we've had conversations with them. They have a very similar situation to Oxford Park, which is they have private streets and they're a small neighborhood. They don't necessarily want to have to take care of those. So we had these conversations that if they would agree to be annexed with the town, accept their streets. So you do have a note in there from Mary Beth, who's here today. Not that we want to put her on the spot, but the neighborhood has asked if we were willing to be annexed. And again, I think they're looking for a commitment from you. So I would ask for that from you guys, that if you are accepting their petitions, that you're also saying we're willing to accept the public streets to be maintained by the town. The public works staff has evaluated the streets. They are in need in paving. So when this annexation, if it does move forward and you guys accept the petitions, you will see that the cost of maintaining the roads is about $130,000 over 5 years. So there is a cost to that. However, again, I think staff is going to recommend that you guys move forward with this annexation and you accept the petitions. I'm happy to answer any questions. There is a statutory timeline. Once you guys accept these petitions, it starts that timeline. So actually on Monday, we will send out letters to all the property owners as part of this annexation if you guys do in fact accept the petitions today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
You're not going to send them out tomorrow? Today's only Thursday.
Probably going to wait till Monday if you don't mind.
Any questions for Mr. Cannon?
Correct. We would do it the same way we did with Oxford Park. We have to complete the annexation first, and then we would go through a process to then dedicate the streets as public streets.
Is that not how we normally do that when we annex property?
Well, so this is unusual because their streets are private. So if we were to annex a regular neighborhood, normally those streets are already public streets dedicated to the county. And the annexation statute says if that happens, we automatically assume responsibility for the streets. So we would normally just take them. These are just a little different because they had the private streets versus public streets.
So my only question then, once we go through the annexation process and it's come to the end, do we need to do it immediately, or my thinking is these roads would be part of maybe our next community crossing grant application?
We could absolutely do that. I think that is Steve's thought that he would try to apply to then, and then again, so then that match, if it's 50%, so then maybe, our cost is only $70,000 or 65, whatever it is. The process of actually accepting the streets we have to do right away because that's one of the requirements of the annexation, that we have to provide them the same services. And so as quickly as we could, we would try to effectuate that transition of the streets to the town.
Would somebody like to make a motion to accept the annexation petitions for Carnoustie?
I will make a motion, but I have a question. Ryan, you mentioned that you wanted us to include that in the motion, but I feel like what you just said is like at this time, we don't necessarily need to worry about the streets, although I feel like if we're going to make this motion, that's what we're saying is we will be making that. How do you want to navigate this with this motion?
I think you're accepting the petitions as doing it, but for Mary Beth to take back to her neighborhood and to let them know, I don't know that it would hurt for you to say that you're accepting the petitions under that stipulation, just so that it's in the public record. And so when Julie does the minutes, she can say, this was the council's intent. And I think that would give peace of mind to those residents, even though it technically, I think you're doing it anyway. I just think it makes it cleaner and easier for everybody to understand.
And I'm seeing a head nod from Dan. So, okay. I make a motion that we accept the Carnoustie annexation petitions as presented with the intention to accept their streets as public streets under our jurisdiction.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Robert Pope,
4.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Don Loudon, Greg Zuzen.
4. And the next one is east of County Road 400 East annexation.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is one, well, fortunately, unfortunately, however you want to look at it, I guess, but this is an annexation area we've been working on going back about 3 years. We've kind of been talking to property owners. The annexation area we had originally proposed was a little bit larger, but we weren't able to get enough petitions to move forward and annex that entire area. However, we were able to come up with kind of a creative way with the 8 petitions that we actually had to still be able to annex those 8 properties. We will have to annex a couple of properties that have not signed petitions, but we can at least annex all the 8 people who actually signed and requested to be annexed. So again, just like the Carnoustie one, in order to start this process, I need you guys to accept the annexation petitions. These 2 annexations, you guys will see them. We're basically put them on a timeline to run together throughout the process. So you'll see these both running together through all the way to the end. We didn't talk much about timeline, but at the end of this, and again, I know you guys know these annexations take a long time. The annexations, if they make it all the way through the process with no remonstrance, then they would become effective in February of 2025. So even though we're getting started now, it takes that period of time to get done.
Is the new school one of these petitions?
The new school is already in town.
Any questions for Mr. Cannon? Somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the petitions for East of County Road 400 East.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second. I'm glad to get this one done.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Jason Puckett,
4.
Craig Zuzen,
4.
Don Loudon, Robert Pope,
4.
Next item is the easement grant for Family Promise. Mr. Taylor.
Yes, this is a great story. You've agreed to donate property to Family Promise for their project, and they have negotiated with their neighbor an access easement and utility easement. And they did it that so fast, they did it before Family Promise had been transferred the property. So they have then asked the town to go ahead and enter into this agreement, which they would inherit when the transfer is made. So I worked with John Moore, their attorney, to make sure that the grant was appropriate for the town, standing in Family Promise's shoes. And this easement, if approved by you and signed by the owner, would provide the easement rights to the property. There is on page 2, you'll notice it's Family Promise's intention to pay for the easement, but then there's the language that says that that obligation only starts when the grantee, which would be Family Promise, connects to the road. And since the town has no intention to connect or do anything over there, there'd be no obligation for the town to pay for this easement. They've worked it out so that'll all come later. So I've reviewed it. I would recommend that you approve it so that it can be executed as a way to facilitate the entire Family Promise project.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor? Would somebody like to make a motion? We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Craig Zuzen,
4.
Don Loudon, Jason Puckett,
4.
Robert Pope,
4.
Next item on the agenda is the first of 5 introduction ordinances. The first one is ordinance 2024-20, Town Code Revision, Article 2-6. Mr. Taylor.
Yes, this ordinance would make technical changes only to the police section of your town code. As you know, over the course of 20 years, you went from a board of metropolitan police commissioners to a police merit system. And it was kind of a little bit of a hodgepodge there, how it was all fit in. So this reorganizes the section. It doesn't make any substantive changes to your system. It just puts it all maybe in a little simpler order and makes a couple other technical changes that are just merely recognizing changes in the law. This is introduction only. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor? For the minutes, let's show introduction ordinance 2024-20, Town Code Revision, Article 2-6 as being presented. Next one is the introduction of ordinance 2024-21, Town Code Revision, Article 2-7. Mr. Taylor.
Yes, this is technical changes to 2-60, which relates to regulation of your own property. There are just 2 sections in here that are affected. One is your town hall used to house your police department, and that's what your code says. And of course, that's not true anymore. And so that makes that change. And then secondly, the EEOC non-discrimination language has changed a little over 23 years. And so there is an addition of the word color now added to the classes of protected persons. Those are the only 2 changes that would be made to your town code under this ordinance.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor? For the minutes, let's show that we have introduced ordinance 2024-21, Town Code Revision, Article 2-7. Moving on to introduction of ordinance 2024-22, Town Code Revision, Article 2-10 and 2-11. Mr. Taylor.
Yes, these are again technical changes. 2-10 is your Parks Department. Your Parks Department code does not mention a parks director because you haven't always had one, and so just she left. Well, forget it. No, to give Shelby recognition, we have inserted a section that says you have a parks director. In the same respect, 2-11 is your Public Works Department, and again, we've inserted Public Works Director, who is a ad hoc member of your Public Works Committee. Again, a few of these ordinances are just that were adopted in 1999 and never touched, and they don't recognize your appropriate structure.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor?
I maybe have one thing. If you guys read my memo, Dan just talked about the Public Works Committee part. Actually, back when I was the Public Works Director, there was a period of time we had a Public Works Committee for a while. It was really in the beginning, the inception of the town, until we kind of created public works processes. But we got to a point where it didn't actually make sense to have a public works committee, so we actually just got rid of it. Now it's still in the code, so we may give some thought to if there's actually any value in a public works committee, and we may just strike that whole section. So maybe you guys can think about that before the final reading, or let Dan and I know if you're agreeable to striking the public works committee. We can take it out and get rid of it altogether since we don't have one anyway.
So do the committee function separately from the board? It did?
They do.
Okay. So,
Yeah, but they really had no authority. They're kind of like the Parks Council. They're advisory. So that's what I went to them and we talked about creating policies like the traffic calming policy. Well, now we bring those to you. We don't go to them. And so again, it's do you want an advisory group advising you before they actually come to you guys or not? And if you don't, then let's just get rid of it.
I would say if we don't need it,
yeah.
this is just the introduction. By the time we go to final reading, you can have that amendment plugged in there. Any other questions? For the minutes then, let's show that we have introduced ordinance 2024-22, Town Code Revision, Article 2-10 and 2-11. And moving on to the introduction of ordinance 2024-23, Town Code Revision, Article 2-12 and 2-13. Mr. Taylor.
Yes, these changes are just to reflect statutory changes in the redevelopment commission and economic development commission sections. So 212, the redevelopment commission. You will notice that there are really just three changes. One, there's been a statutory change in how the term is articulated. It really doesn't change anything at our end, but just a slight change. Secondly, we've clarified the fact that the RDC is supposed to have an annual meeting and when that is supposed to take place, because again, a statutory change. And then lastly, because of the statutory change, the clerk treasurer is now the treasurer of the RDC. That wasn't always the case. The RDC could choose their own. And now the state legislature says, oh, no, it's got to be the clerk treasurer. So these changes have been made in 212, the RDC sections. In 213, the Economic Development Commission section, again, similar changes. One simply clarifies the term and provides for the timing of its annual meeting. And then a new law was passed to say that the EDC had to submit an annual report to you, the town council, each year, and what must be in there. And so in the interest of transparency, there's a new section. And in section 2168, there's the exact requirements of what that annual report says. So neither Ryan nor I know, nor the EDC have to look that up, but it's right there for them.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor? My only question is, so does the clerk treasurer then attend the RDC meetings then?
She should. She
Okay.
keeps all their financial records and provides reports for them.
I just want,
If you haven't seen her at a meeting, you might discuss it with her.
and all other duties as assigned.
Right.
Let us show for the minutes then that we have introduced ordinance 2024-23, Town Code Revision, Article 2-12 and 2-13. Now move to the introduction of ordinance 2024-24, Town Code Revision, Article 2-16. Mr. Taylor?
Yes, these are technical changes only. One is to the ADA, your American Disability Policy, just some technical changes being made, nothing substantive. And then most of these pages deal with the state's retention schedule required for government documents. And there've been some changes there. And those changes are shown to you in color. Not that we have anything to say about this retention schedule, but the reason it's in your code, we want your town employees to be able to know where to find these things. How long do I have to keep this? And so we try to keep it updated. And there were a couple different changes, nothing big, but it brings your retention schedule up to date.
Any questions for Mr. Taylor? Let us show for the minutes then the introduction of ordinance 2024-24, Town Code Revision, Article 2-16. Moving on to the legal counsel report. Mr. Taylor.
Nothing new to report to you. We do have more of these changes.
Public comment. This is the second of two public comment opportunities. The public may comment on items on the agenda that are not a public hearing or on a specific matter within the council's jurisdiction. If you'd like to come forward, please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes. With nobody coming forward, then we'll close the second public comment opportunity and move on to council comment. With no council comment, let's move to council calendar. And I think the one item that we want to discuss is our second meeting in July that conflicts with National Night Out, about moving that to another date.
That's correct. Your guys' July 25th meeting is the same night as National Night Out. So again, we'd like to be transparent on when we're meeting and what we're doing. So if you guys want to change that meeting, or if you want to make it a different date, or if we just want to cancel it, I'm not sure what you guys want to do, but if you give us some direction so Julie can figure out how to notice the meeting or not notice the meeting.
Well, my only concern, we don't know what could possibly be on the agenda to make that determination to cancel it. I'm not for moving it to Friday, and the 22nd is a Monday, and that's Plan Commission night. So I'd suggest the 23rd. Well, the 23rd, we have the comp plan meeting at 5 o'clock.
5, yeah.
Or else the 24th. Those are the two dates that I would recommend. Input from anybody else?
Maybe suggest before you guys do that, your town attorney has other meeting obligations, and you may check with him what works. I know it, just so that he may say he can't be at something.
I thought we were the only municipality that you represented.
So the 24th works for me fine. That's the date you're looking at. And if it's Friday the 26th, I'm all in.
24th works for me.
24th does not work for me, but I'm one member.
We have the groundbreaking that day.
At Easton Gray. Well, let's do this then. I think there's a consensus that it could be the 24th. So that way we can get it out ahead of time. That's a whole month that we can get it out on our website. That
We
night
do
has been
notice it on the
changed.
website. I noticed it in the front window. Angel's really good about putting it out there that we will change it. It'll be on Facebook or all of our social medias multiple times.
Definitely not willy-nilly.
It is not willy-nilly. We will definitely make sure everybody knows so that
Okay.
what happened to Dawn doesn't happen here.
All right. With nothing else,
I just, 2 other things real quick, just for your council calendar. Reminder, your next meeting is July 11th. At the moment, we do still have a work session scheduled beforehand, so 5:30 work session, 7 o'clock town council meeting. And then also just a reminder to all of you, I think you got an email today from Suzanne, but also to the public or anybody watching, Night at the Park is July 3rd. We'd love to have all the community come out. We'd love for the council members to come out and help us staff our town booth and meet all of our Avon residents and enjoy fireworks and all the other festivities of Night at the Park. And that is July 3rd from 6 to 10 p.m., fireworks at 10 p.m.
meeting adjourned. Thank you.